have a meditation class, and then afterwards, if people have questions. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask?
Oh, I have a question. About the becoming nothing that you were talking about, I think last class. Um, is that just not reflecting back on yourself? Like there's just life happening and not someone that's thinking that they're doing anything?
I didn't get the beginning of your question.
Oh, I'm sorry. You had talked last class about becoming nothing, basically, so that the universe could just flow through. And I'm wondering, is that just not having anyone that's like thinking it's happening to them, like having no one that's reflecting upon what's happening?
Well, I mean, nothing is nothing. I mean, it's really basically, look, it's all just words. What is it to be nothing? It's a word. That's what I said last time. Like Om is a word, God is a word. But when you surrender in great depth inside, when you start letting go of all of these past experiences, all of the conditioned behavior, all of rightness, all of whatever it is you have to let go of, you get closer and closer to a state of not being full of yourself, being full of your ego, your fear, your insecurity, your problems, but truly getting closer to a state of nothingness, which then allows spiritual energy to flow through you. So, I mean, look, these are all words. And ultimately, if we don't experience inside ourselves a very deep state of surrender, if we don't let go of our tension, our problems, our fear, our insecurity, et cetera, down the road, all of the stuff that blocks us having a connection with God or spiritual energy. If we don't surrender these things, if we don't let go of these things, you understand, they congest us. They keep us from ever truly growing and tapping the deepest levels of creativity in ourselves. At the same time, there'll always be things wrong with us. We wouldn't be living on the earth if we were in a state of perfection. Angels, God, higher energy, that's perfection. We struggle with our limitations, and we need to have these limitations because, as I've said 100 times already, they are a constant reminder that we need to keep going deeper inside ourselves. And what you ultimately come to the realization is that it all works together. The things that are really creative about us, the things that are wonderful about us, the things that are not so wonderful about us, all of it, works together to help us learn how to keep surrendering in greater and greater and greater depth. And nobody's going to attain a perfect state of nothingness. It's not possible, not living here, because basically everything on the earth is imperfect, is limited. It's born, it lives, it dies. You know, I mean, even redwood trees, they live 300 years and one day they fall down. You know, everything is born, it lives, it dies, which means there has to be imperfections. But imperfections, this might sound like, you know, might sound like an oxymoron, you know. I mean, imperfections are part of perfection. You know, they remind us that we need to keep working deeper on ourselves. So they're part of that incredible soup, you know, which is called God, you know. I mean, where every ingredient works for us if we develop the consciousness to let them work for us. And the whole point of it is to get closer and closer to a complete state of surrender, to a state of nothingness. And not to beat ourselves up if we don't reach that state of nothingness, because we need to keep growing. The only thing that's perfect is God. The rest of us have to live our lives with imperfection, which again, we need, because otherwise we'd really be a bunch of lazy people, you know? Nobody would do anything about themselves if they didn't have something to work against. So don't complain about it. Be grateful for the imperfections. Be grateful for the things that you're gifted with that are wonderful in your life, the talents you have, the gifts you have. Be grateful for them. Be grateful for the things that are difficult, because we need them as a reminder. And we gauge our growth by how deeply we're capable of letting go and getting closer and closer to that state of nothingness, which is truly a oneness with God. And the wonderful thing about all this is that we can function here like human beings.
Mm.
We don't walk around in some kind of ivory tower proclaiming how pure we are to the world. I mean, that's all bullshit. I have never met a pure person. Rudy told me the same thing. He said he's never met a pure person. Not possible. And yet people proclaim this kind of state of purity that they live in. It's all bullshit, you know? I mean, we live in a state of having to evolve and grow. And we need to learn how to use everything as fuel to help us evolve and grow. And truly, the greatest state of being is the capacity to, you know, to grow, to continue to expand your consciousness and tap greater and greater levels of creative energy that can flow through us and that truly will guide us in our lives every day. So look, this is hard to explain. I wouldn't blame you if you don't comprehend all this, because it sounds like a lot of paradoxes, but it's really not, because what you learn is that living here is one gigantic paradox. You know, the things that work against us can be exactly the things that give us a spiritual life if we develop consciousness and learn how to use them properly. That's a human being's commitment to God, to do the work, not to complain and lament and fetch about how difficult everything is, but to do the work is one's commitment to a higher force in the universe. Because otherwise that force cannot nurture us. And what is the work? It's getting past ourselves. That's the work. Learning how to get free of ourselves. to as close as we can possibly get to a state of nothingness. Less of us, the more there is of spiritual energy that can flow through. The less obstructions there are inside. We don't dam up the works. You know, spending all our time in our heads and thinking we're right and we know better than everybody else, you know? Just, does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I have a question, Stuart. Last class, you answered a question about the Om. And up until then, I thought that the Om I was open to listen to was the sound of Om that we make. So that was really shocking to hear you say there's like a frequency. I was just going to ask you to elaborate on the frequency because I hear that, yet sometimes I question, is that like general electronic sounds or the sound of Om? So if you could speak to that at all, I'd appreciate that.
I can try, you know, I mean, look, you know, please, everybody's got it. I don't understand why people leave the class. It's just very strange, but they can't spend an extra 10 minutes here and listen to these things. I mean, is everything else so important that people don't have 10 minutes more to spend to listen to the things that are coming through? I don't get it, you know? And it kind of bothers me, and maybe it shouldn't, but it really does bother me. It's like an insult. You know, it's one thing I know Christine and Kerry, they have bad backs, they're lying down, but they're listening. But to just get out of the class before it's over with, when it's just another 10 minutes you gotta spend, it's like an insult. It's like silly, you know, why be here, you know? Somebody else just, people are leaving left and right. Maybe I'm scaring them off. I don't know. Anyway, look, I will talk about, look, you know, Om is a word. You understand? It's a word like every other word in our language that kind of defines something. But it's just like God. God is a word that we try to define something. But when you listen to the sound of Om, you're listening to the sound of all creative energy. And, you know, for years of my own life, I used to hear all the time this high-pitched frequency. And I was a kid, I used to lie in bed listening to it, never could figure out where it was coming from. And as I grew in Rudy's work, I began to realize that high-pitched frequency is the sound of creative energy manifesting in the world. And as that energy enters us, it then becomes words, it becomes thoughts, it becomes physical things, material things, and it really gives birth to all of life. You know, and inside us, you know, we can channel that sound of Om. We can bring it into, you know, the chakra system and use it to help us develop our inner life. So I don't think you have to sit there and try to listen for Om, you know, that, you know, I don't know if that's the sound. I mean, that's the sound when people sit and chant, they make that sound. But when you sit in the silence of your own inner self and allow yourself to hear that vibration in the universe, you know, it's like a high-pitched electronic sound that comes into you. And I don't know if you all have had the same experience, but when I was younger, I always wondered, where the hell was that coming from? What is that? And then I heard Rudy talking about it. And also he spoke in terms of it being the sound of creative energy, being the Om sound. So instead of trying to figure out where that is coming from, just open and let it come in and let it go through the whole chakra system and nurture you inside. And let's stop interpreting everything and allowing things to become living experience, because that really is the key to growing spiritually. Things become living experience. So it's not thinking in terms of Om, you know, but opening, and that sound will come into you right through the crown chakra. It'll go into each and every chakra, and that point in the Om, the Bindu, you know, it really is an opening into every chakra. So we have to truly allow this to happen and to really open to let it become living experience and not try to interpret it or figure it out or think that it's got to be Om. It doesn't have to be Om. It's got to be that creative force in the universe. It's like even in the Bible, they say, in the beginning was the word. I mean, it's the same metaphor. Every sound is really a manifestation of Om, creating the universe. We are living right in the center of all that. And the only thing that keeps us from seeing it is we just, you know, cut ourselves off from it because of all the tension and internal stuff. And, you know, I mean, so I think that this is an important thing to learn. And that Om sound will come into one through the crown chakra. And it'll flow right through your system. And it'll really act as an incredibly nurturing energy that will open, you know, and help to develop the chakra system inside a person that's doing deep meditation practice. I mean, they have some kind of a name for it, tinnitus or something like that, you know, which doctors call it, and they still trying to figure out what the hell it is. And, you know, and if you tell them it's the Om sound, they'll tell you you're crazy, you know? But what does it matter what people think and how they interpret stuff? Our job is to open and receive this and allow it to nurture us inside. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I wanted to tell you that my back was really bad for the last 48 hours and I was laying on the floor. And as you spoke, I just want to tell you my back stopped hurting and your lecture on Om laying here really helped me. And I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Christy. Help me too.
Thank you.
You know, yeah, I understand that, and I think that is, you know, it's just perfectly wonderful, that kind of thing to happen. And that's what the energy of these meditations does. It heals you of things, you know. It really breaks down the tensions inside that create so many problems. Bless you, dear.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, then there'll be a class tomorrow evening. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody, and God bless you all. Thank you for being here. And this is a wonderful soup that we are cooking here. I really love coming and really dining on this soup. It's just extraordinary. So bless you all and thank you. And I hopefully will see everybody tomorrow.
Thank you, Stuart. Good night.
Love you.